All right. Good morning, Manish. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So on your screen,
Uh-huh.
you should have a webcam option.
Okay, let me go there.
Let's see.
One moment. Webcam. Yes, webcam.
Okay. And you want to share your webcam so our students
Okay,
can
got
see
it,
you.
got it. So I'm just gonna we're going live at 9:30, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so I'm just doing a couple of things before I go there,
Okay.
and I'll see you shortly in
Okay.
like
Sounds good.
2 minutes.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. So do you have the option now to share your screen?
Let me do that. One moment.
Okay.
It says on my side, it's sharing.
Do you have a little icon that shows a computer screen? And is it green?
No, not yet. Let me see. It's not letting me do that. Let's go back and do it again.
Okay. 8.
Mm-hmm.
I have hit the record button. We are recording. We have so far about 30 of our students online. So good morning, everyone. Let's see. For those of you who are with us so far, I do have you unmuted. So if you want to unmute yourself and say hello, you can.
So Sheila, can you see my total complete screen at the moment?
Yes, I can.
Okay, good. Okay.
Hi, Sheila. Hi, Manish. It's Jill.
Hi,
Hi,
Jill.
Jill.
Good morning.
Oh, I just wanted to say good morning. And oops, my phone is ringing. Hang on. Okay. Hey, I wanted to let you know I can see the screen and I can see both of you and I can hear you just fine.
Brilliant.
Perfect, perfect.
And your screen is where it says Intro to Ayurveda and Santa Cruz Ayurveda and the plant and the hands. It is smaller. I wonder if it could be made a little bit larger to block out the background of your computer.
Yeah, that it's basically this.
Oh, there, you did it.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
was not on the what do you call them, the presenting format.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it looks beautiful.
All right, let's see. Let's give it another minute for everyone to join, and then we can get started. Sound good?
Yes. So let's see here, Sheila. So you are on, right?
Yes.
Okay, so let me know. Yeah, whenever we are ready, you take over.
All right.
But once you start, I'm going to go into the slideshow mode so the whole screen will show, meaning whole presentation. Right now, I'm on a computer mode.
Gotcha. I was just looking for one more little last minute detail.
Mhm.
Okay. All right, well, I think we should go ahead and get started. And we're almost at full capacity, and I imagine we'll have a couple more people joining us in the next few minutes. So, good morning, everyone. I'm seeing a few comments in our question box. Let's see.
I do not see them, Sheila.
Do you see your questions tab? The
Yeah,
way it's set up in mine, you might have to click on the side arrow so it opens.
yeah, I did, but I didn't see any.
Okay, I'm just going to go through a couple of technical things. One person says that they are not unmuted. So often what happens is I will unmute you on my end, but then you also have to go in and unmute yourself. So you have a little microphone icon and you want to make sure that you click on that so that it turns green. Let's see. One person says they have no sound. Let me just type a reply to that. Okay. Good morning. Good morning. Jill says she's got sound. Okay. All right. And Manish, are you not able to access the questions box?
I am on the question box, but it's blank.
Huh. That is odd. Okay. Well, since you're the presenter, you may not be able to see them. I'll let you know when they come in.
Okay, no problem.
All right. Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm Sheila. This is Manish. I'd like to share a little bit of an introduction for Manish for this morning's class. Before I do that, just getting a couple of housekeeping guidelines out of the way. Manish will take questions as we go along, so go ahead and type them in the box, and I think I'll read them. I think we'll try that and see how that works. And we plan to take a break at our halfway point. That's 11 a.m. Pacific time. But please do take care of yourself and do what you need to do as we're going along. So let's see. Manish, Jill sent you a question in the question box just as a test. Can you see this?
Okay, let me see. No, I do not.
Okay, that might be a function of being selected as the presenter and not the organizer.
Mhm.
All right, then I'll take care of asking questions as we go along. And I wanted to just share an introduction. This is our Our class today is Introduction to Ayurveda with Manish Chandra. Manish grew up in Nepal, learning Ayurveda from an early age. He has formally studied Ayurvedic medicine for the last 10 years, graduating from Mount Madonna Institute, College of Ayurveda in 2010 as a certified Ayurvedic practitioner. He received his Master of Arts in Ayurveda in 2012. He is now recognized by NAMA, National Ayurvedic Medical Association, USA, as an Ayurvedic doctor. Manish is also a Reiki practitioner, student of yoga, and an adventure and Panchakarma travel coordinator to Nepal and India. Panchakarma being cellular detoxification therapy. Manish, welcome. Thank you so much for leading this class today.
Thank you, Sheila, for the nice introduction. Thank you all for being here in this beautiful, I don't know where everybody is, but I'm in Santa Cruz, California, nice sunny day. And first and foremost, I want to thank Leslie and Michael Tierra for inviting me again. This is my second year teaching at the East-West College of Herbology. Last year we were in person, so this year we happen to be doing this online distance learning. And again, I want to thank you, Jill, for being behind the scene unsung hero in this project. So thank you all. My name is Manish Chandra, and I've been practicing Ayurvedic medicine in Santa Cruz for the last 8 years now in downtown Santa Cruz. What I would like to do is, it's very relevant, so Ayurveda comes from India. It is believed to be 3,000 to 5,000 years old medical practice. So I like to recite this mantra. I think it's a very appropriate, it's a Sanskrit mantra, because in old days, all the Ayurvedic texts were written in Sanskrit. Now, obviously, everything is translated in English. So I want to recite this beautiful mantra about, this is a peace mantra, and we'll begin with that. So this is how it goes. Asatoma satgamaya, tamasoma jyotirgamaya, mrityorma amritam gamaya. Om shanti shanti shanti. So the meaning of this is, lead me from ignorance to truth, lead me from darkness to light, lead me from death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. So this is very relevant at this time during this pandemic we are going through. And then especially now, I applaud each one of you studying Chinese, traditional Chinese medicine, and also interested in Ayurveda, because these traditional medical sciences really focuses on, it's a system medicine rather than this like a part medicine, which is a modern medicine. It's a system. It looks at your whole system, and we're going to talk about that in detail. So I'm going to go through my PowerPoint presentation. So I'm going to also veer off, do a little bit of own improvisation here, and I also have a lot of handouts next to me. I think you guys also received that handouts. So we don't have particular format, but you can always ask a question, and Sheila will relay that question to me, so I can answer them as we go along. So what is Ayurveda? Ayurveda, the literal meaning of Ayurveda is science of life or knowledge of life. So what does that mean? It's basically, it's really simple, which is, how do we live life in harmony with nature? That's the true essence of Ayurveda. Ayurveda talks about, we are nothing but nature. We have these 5 elements, ether, air, fire, water, and earth. So we are made up of those 5 elements, And then nature, if you look at the nature, all of those 5 elements are present in nature, so as in our human body. So if we were to live in harmony with nature, we find health. So what is really happening in modern day is we are increasingly going away from nature. Look at our food chain, look at our environment. So we are increasingly going away from nature. And this is the byproduct of what we are seeing right now, because this pandemic is one of the huge example how we have been removed from nature, how we have compromised our immunity. I'm going to talk about that, the relationship between the immunity and any kind of pathogens such as virus or bacteria or so forth, right? So this is the systems medicine. It looks at the whole system, not just the part, because everything is related. Even a single hair in your body has a meaning. So again, the meaning of Ayurveda, I have science of life, 3,000 years old. Some talkers, some texts talk about even like 5,000-year-old system of medicine. So this is a nice proverb: when diet is wrong, medicine is of no use. When diet is right, medicine of no. So this is very relevant. So there are 5. These are like 5 philosophies of Ayurveda. There's a 5 elements concept of the universe, which is ether, air, water, fire, and earth. We'll go into detail. Body's innate self-healing ability, a way of life, personalized, individualized program, detox, those are the philosophy of Ayurveda. So you can, again, at any time, you can stop me and ask questions. So what are our goals? What are we doing in life? Because all these traditional medical practices has a meaning. It's just not like, about just a science, but it's the way of life. So what is our goal? What is our goal in life? Dharma. So whatever you do, if you work in a bank, you're serving the community in your neighborhood as a banker, or you're a car mechanic, or whatever your dharma, what is your calling in life? That is your dharma. You're uplifting other people by your service. You have a unique perspective in life because of your expertise, right? So that's your dharma. What are you contributing to in your life? That's the first goal of life. Second, to maintain your dharma, you have to somehow be making money to support that, right? For example, my Ayurvedic practice, I have certain bills I have to pay every month to sustain that practice. So it's not about becoming wealthy, but at least to support your dharma, your goal in life, right? So that's the number 2 objective or goal. And then the third is the fulfillment of the positive desires. There are negative desires and the positive desires. So we all know that. So one of the things we often say in Ayurveda is the root cause of all diseases in Ayurveda is this word pragya aparad. Sanskrit word pragya aparad means crimes against wisdom. Mistaken of the intellect is the root cause of all diseases. We can think about so many things. Like in the middle of the winter, we have a lot of mucus forming, but we still like to go out in the middle of winter and then have a bowl of ice cream, for example, right? Having 5 drinks instead of 1 drink. So those are we already know in our innate our body and mind, we already know those things are harmful, but we do them anyways. Crimes against wisdom. So here, kama, positive desire, is fulfillment of positive desires. And then the last one is moksha, is spiritual liberation. Liberation, when it comes to liberation, it's the being free from all these dualism or attachments to unhealthy things, so we could be whole and complete, because the moment we are conceived and we're born, we are complete and whole. The more and more we form these personalities, we get attached to so many different things, right? So moksha is a spiritual liberation, not necessarily becoming Buddha or a monk here, but really grounded, to the earth. So Ayurveda talks about your unique body constitution. So that's what separates this medical practice from most of the other sciences, is we talk about this unique constitution, almost like you can say somewhat similar to DNA, human DNA, which is very unique. So that's what, although physiologically all of us are similar, but it's very unique. The one person has this unique constitution which doesn't match with another one. So that's what we need to look at it. So the three doshas concept is, the dosha means your constitution. They are the
Excuse me,
three.
Manish, I have a
Yes,
question.
yes.
We have a couple of questions about Sanskrit. One was, could you please spell the Sanskrit word that is crimes against wisdom, pragya aparad?
Absolutely. So can I type that out and everybody can see?
Maybe. Let's try it.
Okay, on my end it's not gonna work, so I'm just gonna repeat that. Okay, so
Yeah.
crimes against wisdom, pragya aparad, is P-R-A-G-Y-A, pragya, and the second word is A-P-A-R-A-D-H-A, aparada. Pragya aparad, crimes against wisdom, are mistaken of the intellect. Again, it's P-R-A-G-Y-A. Second word, A-P-A-R-A-D-H-A.
Okay,
And
thank you.
what was
And
the other
then
question?
we had a request if you would be able to share the peace chant in writing, and maybe that's something that we can do afterwards.
Yeah, I can do that, but again, I'm having a hard time. Maybe we can fix this problem during the break time, Sheila, because if I can write it, I can share that during the break.
Okay. And
Okay?
then for the Sanskrit peace chant, if that's something that maybe you want to send in an email to Jill, and then Jill can email it to the students, and or
Absolutely.
we'll try and get our questions sorted out during the break.
I'll be happy to do that. Yeah, it's a beautiful mantra, isn't it? It's like so relevant for this time, but we are living in a little bit of fear and anxiety and unknown. We human mind always like to conquer things, meaning like always wanted to know what is coming tomorrow. But the beauty of life, and this is Ayurveda 101, my friends, the beauty of life is not knowing. And that's the beauty. That actually brings us to the present moment every single time, right? So it's actually, there's a silver lining in everything. I think there's a lot of I don't want to make this situation lightly, take this situation lightly, but again, this is our opportunity to really go inward and understand who we are. One of the things Ayurveda talks about is know yourself. That's the whole, it's a systems approach, right? So understanding yourself. No one can do that. No doctor, no practitioner can understand you but yourself. Okay, going further. So there are three major components of Ayurveda when we're talking about the dosha. The first one is Vata. So the Vata dosha, by the way, these are the biological humors. So what is the constitution then? Since we're talking about these three doshas, there are three unique constitution in Ayurveda: Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. So these are the combination and permutations of these five elements. Okay, so the Vata dosha has ether and air component. Pitta dosha has fire and water component, and Kapha has earth and water. So when we are looking at the system, always we're trying to find out what is your constitution. That gives us a couple of tools. when we're understanding your constitution. What does that provide is your DNA, meaning what is your strength in your physiological body and your mental body, your body and mind. What is your strengths and what are your weaknesses? Because we all embody both, just like the night and day. We have darkness and the light in our body. We have certain strengths based on the combination and the permutations of your components, like these 5 elements, and the weaknesses. Sometimes you may have heard, every time I'm kind of about to get sick, I always have this sore throat or stuffy nose or something, right? Other people complain about, always I have a headache. And then some other people say, oh, I always have this stomach ache. Why are these differences, right? So we all have these different strengths and weaknesses by this permutation and combination of these different elements. So Vata dosha has the combination of ether and air elements, and the Pitta dosha has fire and water element, and then Kapha. By the way, all of us human living organisms have all those 3 doshas. You know, your constitution is based on the ratio of those elements. So some people have more ether, some people have more air, some people have more fire and water. So let's talk about some of the principles, probably in the later slides. So some of the characteristics of doshas, here you go. Vata doshas, they're light, cold. Those are the characteristics. If you have those, then if you have more of those, brother, like for example, if your hands and feet or your body is fairly dry and always like extremities are cold, you may be like predominantly Vata dosha, right? But also here it's very important to understand all of these doshas has their functions. So in this case here for the Vata, all the movements of the body is controlled by the Vata dosha. Your bowel movement, your menstrual cycle, your eyesight, your movement of your hands and feet, your heartbeat, all of these are controlled by Vata dosha. Our inhalation, exhalation, all of those. So 60% we talk about in Ayurveda, 60% of all the imbalances are caused by Vata dosha because it is involved in so many different movements, circulation, so all your your digestive processes and all that. So all of these movement in the body, whatever you can think of, it is regulated by Vata dosha. The Pitta dosha is hot, sharp, light, liquid, all of those qualities. If you're one of those people like, very easily getting like sunburned or very hot, dark, like a reddish pink skin, all of those, tendencies. And also look at what it does. The Pitta dosha's function is metabolism. So whatever we eat or we get from our senses, we have to process them. So it is responsible for all the metabolism, food into nutrition and nutrients, and all the sensory input. All of those has to be processed. So basically, the Pitta does all the metabolic activities, and then there's come the third one is Kapha. So heavy, slow, cool, all of those governs all the cohesion and lubrication, all the fluids in the body, which is very important. Otherwise, we'll have cracking joints and bones, all of those system of the body, the stability, the muscle mass, the bone mass, all of those are regulated by Kapha dosha. So see, all of those things are very important for our function. Vata controlling all the movement, Pitta controlling the metabolic functions, and the Kapha is the lubrication or the stability of our body. So so when we are talking about the dosha, what are the proportions in your body is what we are looking at. So as an Ayurveda, so when I'm doing somebody's constitution, I'm looking at their pulse, I'm looking at their tongue, and then I'm asking all these questions, and then I determine, okay, this person is Vata Pitta personality, so these are the complaints they have, so these are their weaknesses, these are their strengths. Based on that, we try to bring back your body into homeostasis so your body starts to heal. So what we're trying to do is, when we are born with these combination and permutations, right? So as we get older, because of our habits, our lifestyles and whatnot, so we go so farther away from our original DNA. We call it Prakriti. Prakriti is your constitution you're born with, and then we are removed so far away from our original constitution, from Prakriti, Prakriti. Prakriti, Prakriti means the constitution you're born with. That does not change throughout our lifetime. What does change is our imbalances. We call Vikriti, V as in Victor, Vikriti. Vikriti is the imbalances, or the current state of imbalances, if there is any. So that's what we see, that being far removed from nature, I explained earlier, right? So that's what it's called. This is Vikriti, the current state of imbalances. And what we do in Ayurveda is we bring you back to closer to your Prakriti, which is your true essence you're born with, and bring this body back to homeostasis so that the body starts to heal itself. So how do we do that? Obviously, diet and lifestyle, the herbs. There are so many different herbs, just like in TCM, we have so many different Ayurvedic herbs. Actually, it crosses some of the Ayurvedic herbs and Chinese herbs are similar. I mean, Michael has written a book about it, The Way of Ayurvedic Herbs. It's a beautiful book. You guys should check it out. Michael Tierra has written a lovely book about this, The Way of Ayurvedic Herbs. So anyways, going
Excuse me,
further.
Manish, we have a
Yes,
question.
yes.
Can you explain what ether is?
Ether is another word for ether is space. So if we look at the sky, there's a huge space in nature, right? That's what we are referring to. We can say ether or space, same thing. So in our body, there's so much space, right? So in our body, there's space. There's space in nature. In this room I'm sitting, there's space. So without space, nothing can be moved. So where are the spaces in our body? In the hollow organs. There's so much space, so the things are moving in our nerves so that the blood could flow. So there's spaces in everything. So that's what we're talking about. So the other word, AKA also known as space. Ether is also known as space. All right, so next slide here, balance between dosas, body, mind, and spirits results in health, my friends. So what we're looking at, balance between dosha, meaning Vata, the balance between Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, that makes your constitution you're born with, and your body and mind and spirit. By the way, when we're talking about spirit, Ayurveda defines spirit as this. So we have the individual consciousness, called Atma, A-T-M-A. It is also sometimes called as Atman, A-T-M-A-N. Both are correct. A-T-M-A or A-T-M-A-N, Atman, means your individual consciousness, and the Brahman, B-R-A-H-M-A-N. B-R-A-H-M-A-N, Brahman means universal consciousness. So we are constantly in, we are nothing but part of the universal consciousness, which is the Brahman. So therefore, we are all in it together. So we are not separate with nature or the universe, right? Which is the Brahman. The universe or nature is considered the Brahman, the universal consciousness. So we are all in it together. This earth we live in is the Brahman, universal consciousness, and each of us is the individual consciousness. So that's the spirit we're talking about here. Balance between doshas, body and mind results in health. Prakriti is the body type, and the Vikriti, by the way, this word Prakriti, P-R-A-K-R-U-T-I, it's also often spelled as P-R-A-K-R-I-T-I. Both are correct. Same here, Vikruti, Vikruti, or Vikriti, V-I-K-R-I-T-I. Both are accurate or correct. So current state of doshas or current state of imbalance is Vikriti. Body type Prakriti, the original state of dosas, meaning when you were born. So most times what we see when I'm doing the examination, seeing clients, patients, are most people have Vikriti, meaning current state of some kind of imbalances, right? But I have seen some that has their original state is still maintained, meaning they haven't gone out of balance. So I have seen that as well. That's kind of rare, but that happens. Okay, also known as doshas, vata, pitta, kapha here. So your constitution is determined by the three doshas. We are made up of three, but have dominant one we need to balance. So by the way, I wanna mention that before I forget. If you want to know your dosha, what is my dosha or what is my constitution, what you can do is you guys can go to our landing page, which is santacruzayurveda.com, one word, santacruzayurveda.com, and you go to the landing page and then you just fill out the question. You can instantly get your dosha right there. In the landing page, what's my dosha question? You just fill about 10 questions, and then at the end, it will tell you what your dosha is. You can perhaps do that during the break time, okay? Not right now, but you can do that, santacruzayurveda.com, and then you can find your dosha type, your DNA type based on Ayurveda. Okay, moving forward. Any questions so far, Sheila, at the moment?
No
Okay.
questions so far. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheila. Hearing none, going forward. Again, I talked about these energy of movement, energy of digestion or metabolism, the energy of lubrication and structure. So by the way, all of these three are very, very important. We have to have all of those three system, like a vata, pitta, and kapha. What separates one to another is the combination and permutations is different. So that's what our body, unique body type and unique mind type is.
Excuse me, Manish, we did just have a question.
Okay.
How can we discern if patterns we are seeing in ourselves or others are Vikriti or Prakriti?
So that's a very good question. So here's the measures of health. So this is how we find our health. So let me read out this thing and then that will explain a little bit. So Ayurveda defines health as follows. So I'll read out, by the way, I'm also going to send out along with that the peace mantra, peace chant somebody requested. I'm gonna also include this definition of health, which is in Sanskrit, but also I have translated in English, so I can also include that in the email, so everybody in this class right now can get it. Okay, so Ayurveda defines health as follows: Sama dosaha, sama agnischa, sama dhatu malakriya, prasanna atmendriya mana swastya iti vayati. What does that mean? One who is established in self, who has balanced doshas, which is balanced constitution, balanced agni. Agni, by the way, we're gonna go into a little bit later. Agni means metabolic strength or digestive fire. Properly formed dhatus means tissues, so properly formed dhatus. Proper elimination of malas. Malas means waste products, which is elimination. Well-functioning bodily processes, and whose mind, soul, and senses are full of bliss is called a healthy person. So why I'm reading this mantra, or not the mantra, actually it's called a slok. Slok means a verse in Sanskrit. So that's how Ayurveda defines health. So health is a combination, not just like the WHO, World Health Organization definition of health is the absence of disease. Okay, that's not what health is in Ayurveda. It's pretty complicated systems. So again, I'm gonna stress a couple of things. One, who is established in self, who has balanced constitution, balanced metabolic system, properly formed tissues, proper elimination of feces or elimination, well-functioning bodily processes, and whose mind, soul, and senses are full of bliss. So whoever asks this question, ask yourself, do you find all of those in your consciousness, or do you find all of those principles? If you do, then that is health. If it's not, then we need to address and we need to restore health. I hope I answered that question. Again, I'm going to include this definition of health, which is in Sanskrit, and translation in English. I'm going to send that to you guys later on, and Jill will send to all of you, or Sheila will by email. Okay. So here, this slide talks about the Prakriti and Vikriti. We basically talked about this. So moving forward, so Vata, now this is talking about some of the characteristics in your Vata. So this is one of the strongest dosas. In Ayurveda, 60% of all the imbalances are caused by Vata dosa. So it's very important because of all the movements are controlled by Vata dosha. Variable appetite, thirst and digestion, tendency towards fasting and eating a little, but increased imbalances, quick minds, creativity. So a lot of Vata people are very, very creative people, because the mind, we cannot forget, it's not just the body, the characteristics of body, the Vata mind is it's a very dreamy, it's a spacey mind. Because what is the elemental composition of Vata dosha? Ether and air. Space and air, right? Ether is also known as space and air. So naturally, Vata has this very spacious mind. So a lot of poets are Vata. A lot of musicians are Vata because they have to write, imagine beautiful like stories, or music directors, or movie producers, or movie directors. A lot of those have those imaginations. A poet, often fall into this Vata dosha characteristics because of their spaciousness in their consciousness. I mean, not saying that the Kapha and Vata, Pitta people would not have that, but just Vata will just have more of that. So these are some of the characteristics in their body physiology. Again, since these are recorded, I think you guys can get it later. Pitta dosa, let's talk about this. So medium height and build, some slender, moderate muscle, generally strong, so bright. So again, one of the characteristics of Vata is easy to get, the Pitta is metabolism. One of the things Pitta controls is your liver functioning. So liver is responsible for your blood, right? The quality of blood. So therefore, it's often seen on your skin. So people easily get, flushed or blush or reddish. I mean, if you're exposed to too much sun, easily get sunburned, and even like a couple of hot chili peppers will flush them, that kind of a thing. So easily seen on the skin because Pitta regulates the liver function, right? So so these are the characteristics of Pitta dosha. And then again, more here. So if you are a predominant Pitta dosha, already what is the composition of your elements? Fire and water. So you need to avoid too much fire and water. What does that mean? So we're gonna go probably a little bit later into this class is some of the fiery stuff is your food, right? Chili peppers, any kind of acidic foods increases more fire. So then we need to avoid excess of those, like alcohol is a perfect example. It's very, very fiery. So that's why people get blush and flushed after drinking for that very reason, because the fire component in the body has increased. So if you are a predominantly pitta person, so you might wanna do just the opposite, just the cooling things rather than heating things, because your body is already heated. So your body is already hot. Unlike vata, vata is dry and cold. This is hot and moist. So your skin is moist and the body is hot to begin with. Your extremities are relatively warm and hot. So you don't want to be doing a lot of hot things, more acidic things. So let's go into kapha here. Kapha is water and earth. So there's already so much water and our fluid. So you want to be careful with a lot of kapha people. Mostly they have problems with mucus. There's so much mucus production because in the body there's earth and water elements. So you can think of kapha dosa as a spring, right? There's a lot of water and the dirt is muddy because of the rain, right? The pitta dosha is fire, which is in the summertime. So each of the season represents different doshas. Right now we're in between the transition between kapha and pitta. We're almost getting into the pitta dosha in a month or so, like by May, maybe mid-May or late May, we're going into the summer, which is a pitta season, fire and water season. Right now we are still in the kapha season, spring. The dirt is muddy, that kind of a thing, because these people, the kapha, if you're predominantly kapha, watch out for things that create excess mucus in the body, right? So you don't want to do too much liquid. When I say liquid, I'm not necessarily not drinking water, but too much liquid, like ice cream is a perfect example, right? A lot of dairy products, anything that creates a lot of mucus. So we need to watch out for that if you're predominantly this dosha. It's all of these doshas are, it's beautiful. We have to have all of this. Just the combination is what we're looking at. So the people have predominant dosa, some are vata predominant, some are pitta predominant, and you can figure out what is my type. And again, if you want to know in detail, you can do that little quiz on our landing page. 7 dhatus are tissues. There are 7 dhatus in the body according to Ayurveda. That is, the first one is rasa, which is plasma. Second is rakta, blood, muscle, fat, adipose, bone, marrow, and then reproductive. So it's the last one. This the 7th dhatu. If you look at the reproductive fluids, that's actually in Ayurveda is our immunity. That's when it's formed. So each of these tissues is very, very important in our building the immunity. The more you study this Ayurveda, you'll understand that's the last byproduct of the tissue production. So that is considered our immunity, the 7th dhatu or the 7th tissue. And now these are the gunas. What is the gunas? Means mental qualities. We've been talking about the body traits, the body characteristics. Now we're talking about 3 different body types. Just like the 3 different mind types. Sorry, pardon me. This is the mind type. The tamas is a dull, dark and dull mind. Hides awareness. A tamasic mind is dull, sluggish, lazy, and prone to depression. Fear interprets experience, meaning there's a lot of fear. Hinders self-inquiry, right? And then the rajas on the right side is rajas an extroverted mind, hides awareness, anger, anxiety. So there's a lot of anger and anxiety. Rajas mind, frustration, aggression, boredom are common. Rajas is a great motivator to accomplish things in the world. So this the rajas, and then the sattva is the calm mind, reveals awareness, mind is present, wise, happy. So what we are trying to do in Ayurveda is from tamas, we're bringing our mind slowly into rajas, and from rajas slowly into sattva. Sattva is more like a stable, pure, conscious, whole mind. That's what health is. That's what we are trying to achieve. This is health. Sattva is health. Okay. And then tamas and rajas are more like vitiations, out of balance. So that's what we're working in Ayurveda. Physiologically and also mentally, we're trying to bring the body into balance and the mind into balance. So that's what we showed this sattva into the middle is from tamas, we're going into sattva, rajas into sattva. Basically what happens is from tamas, we slowly move into rajasic, which is more like dynamic mind. And then from rajas, we move into sattvic mind. That is our objective in Ayurveda. To reach health, we have to, establish the sattvic mind. The three gunas, so it explains a little bit more here. Works through the energies of love, peace, and non-violence, using nature. Nature is a good source of, sattva prana, proper diet, mantra, and meditation. These are the ways like a yoga, again, hanging out with yourself. When I say that, what does that mean? Nature is nothing but you. Nature is you. This is where we come from. And this is where we go back to, is nature. Okay, so therefore, if we are, that's why we feel blissed out when we're hanging out in nature. We find ourselves. We find ourselves because that tree, the redwood trees, we are surrounded in this area. So many redwood trees around here in Northern California. And then when we're surrounded by those trees and nature, birds, and the ocean. We find ourselves because all those 5 elements present in nature, we embody them and then we find ourselves. That's why we always bliss out, regardless of what you do, whether you surf or you hike in nature, you bike, walk in nature, or camp out or backpack. We find peace because we have found our home. That's the sattva guna or sattva, nature of the mind. And the rajas work through the energies of stimulation, energization, agitation. So obviously that is also important sometimes. Otherwise, we especially in modern day, we do need to have some rajas so that otherwise we are not stagnant especially if we are in the tamas state of mind, which is dark and dull, sedation, sleep and grounding. So it's a high tamas. It's almost like we consider like a couch potato, lazy bum. So always don't want to do anything. We don't want to be in that state, right? So we want to slowly move from tamas into rajas, a little more dynamic mind, a little bit of a stimulation. From there, we make our way into sattva. That's our goal. Consists of ojas and subtle essences. So ojas is ojas means immunity. In Ayurveda, ojas means immunity. So prana, tejas, and ojas, these are the 3 concepts Ayurveda talks about often. So prana is your life force energy, right? So in Chinese medicine is qi. So qi is the closest translation of prana. So prana in Ayurveda means life force energy, so which is a subtle vata element responsible for the process of circulation, digestion, and excretion. Tejas, which is radiance. Tejas means radiance. Prana is life force energy. Tejas means radiation, which is it is mostly shown, like we call it the aura, your skin, your body language, all of those tejas is reflected in your facial expression, your skin. that is radiance. You know how sometimes we will come across, oh my God, that person is radiating, right? So the energy is radiating. That's beautiful. That's health. And then the ojas again here is immunity, the vital substance that is the refined and product of digestion I talked about earlier. The made from all 7 dhatus are tissues linked to kapha. So kapha is the one which is responsible for creating ojas, because kapha is nothing but production of all these fluids and all our tissues, bones, muscle mass, bone mass, all of those. It's almost like the earth and water energy, right? So therefore, this is the byproduct of the 7 tissues, the ojas, the immunity. And ama, what is ama? Ama means undigested food, which is circulating in our system. Most of those amas are coded in our intestinal lining, or especially around our belly button, like a stomach area, because that's where most of the fats are, to protect against all the big organs. So therefore, if we are not digesting the food we're eating, what happens is when we're eating something like, especially in modern day processed foods, your body doesn't recognize them as food, right? It's almost like the alien thing. So it's a pathogen coming, so it's not going to be digested. So the body is confused. It's going to get stored in your fat cells. And unless and until you remove them from healthy lifestyle diet or perhaps some detoxification protocol, it's going to get stored. So it clogs the channels in your body, so it disrupts all the systems. So it's so this is what the byproduct of our unhealthy behaviors over the years, right? So ama is accumulated over time. So we need to get rid of that from our body and from our mind. Agni is very important, which is digestive fire or metabolic strength. The most of the fire we talk about is in our stomach. Whatever food we eat, it has to be processed by the help of that fire. Same with the sensory stimuli, right? So everything has to be processed. Something happens when we're a child, some unfortunate situation or trauma happens, and we're still carrying that trauma. Why? We have never processed. So it's still lingering around in our fat cells. All the emotions are also stored in our fat cells. So it has to be removed by processing the body. So healthy behaviors, changing our thought patterns, doing meditation, pranayama, yoga, all these different practices, so that we are releasing that mental ama as well as physiological ama from our system. So what happens when there is too much ama? The agni, the metabolic fire, is disrupted. So the ama influences agni. So when we have loaded our body, especially those intestinal lining or the stomach, the channels are all loaded with the digestive impurities or the toxins, then that really influences our agni. So the agni is depleted. The metabolic strength is depleted. Then when the agni is depleted, we eat food we cannot digest. So over time, there's so much ama in the system, it's overwhelming. And then we talk about some of the conditions like autoimmune conditions like leaky gut syndrome is a typical one, and there are so many because we have completely screwed up our microbiome.
Excuse me, Manish.
Yes.
We have a question.
Yes.
Fatima asks, how can you increase Agni?
Perfect, beautiful question. So this is how you, first of all, what we have to do, the system or the protocol is to increase the Agni. First, we have to get rid of excess ama from the system, excess toxins from the system. So once we release all the toxins and our body is clean, then naturally by eating healthy foods, by implementing healthy lifestyles, the Agni is gonna go up. It's just like sometimes, you in your fireplace or at the beach bonfire. If you're trying to make a fire with a wet wood, it's not going to happen. But when it's dry and nice, the wood will burn effortlessly, right? That's what it is. So there's so much gunk in the system that has been influencing that digestive fire for so long. So to change that dynamic, first we need to release the ama, excess ama, digestive impurities or metabolic impurities or toxins from the body. Then we slowly implement the healthy lifestyle, healthy diet, and perhaps at that time we may have to use some herbs for our support for a short time, and then we ignite the Agni. So that's the process we follow. First, get rid of Ama, then ignite the Agni, reignite the Agni.
And then 2 follow-up questions.
Okay.
I'll read them both. And how do you clear the toxins? Release ama. That's one. And the other question is, could you talk about the different types of Agni?
Oh yeah. That the different types of Agni is coming up in the slides here. In the slides,
Okay.
the first question is what was the first question again? I'm sorry.
How do you clear the toxins? How do you release
Okay, got
ama?
it. Yeah. So there are different protocols in Ayurveda. One of the protocol is, again, if you look at this slide here, all diseases begins in the gut, right? So what we really have to do is most of the impurities are located in our gut lining. So we really need to clean the gut. So therefore, there's a couple of ways to go about it. If you have time, Shelley, when she was introducing me, she was talking about this word panchakarma. She mentioned that word panchakarma. Panchakarma means cellular detoxification protocol. So that is something is done in Ayurveda for 30 days. So subsequently, because a lot of people, but that has to be done in a very supervised, it's not like you cannot really do at your home because there's so many procedure involved, like enemas and things like that. So normally it is done in a more like a Ayurvedic hospital setting or Ayurvedic, more like supervised nature, right? Those 30 days panchakarma is recommended for a cellular detoxification protocol that is called panchakarma. So subsequently, another thing I have established myself is cleaning the gut. 6 months gut healing protocol is what I have established in my clinic. So I basically work with people for 6 months to clean their gut completely, so that regardless of what the problems they may have come up with, we are really working with diet, lifestyle, and herbals formulation for that long, and then we are really addressing to heal the gut. So once we heal the gut, then we are reigniting the Agni, which is a digestive fire, and then we establish the homeostasis, so the body starts to heal. So all these trauma we've been carrying from the past since we were a child, all of those are addressed. This is not just the physical toxins, but also the mental toxins we've been carrying for so long. So the second part of the question was what were the different forms of Agni, which is a Sama Agni, which is a balanced Agni. Visama Agni means irregular Agni. Like if you think about it, Visama Agni means irregular Agni. One day you're super hungry, another day you have no appetite. That is called irregular Agni. We don't want that. So there's something going on in your gut to tell you someday you have extremely hungry, you have a huge amount of appetite, next day you have none, right? So that is called Visama. V as in Victor, ISHAMA. Visama Agni is irregular Agni. Another one is Manda Agni, MANDA. Manda means very, very low Agni, the digestive fire. There's nothing. even like if you eat something like a simple thing like a soup or stew, then you have a gas and bloating. So there's a major problem. There's no digestive fire to be digesting any food. So that means there's a huge amount of ama or impurities in the system. So that is Manda Agni. And then the Sama Agni is the balanced metabolism. Here it says in this slide, optimal metabolism, balanced digestion can degenerate into one of the three imbalanced forms of Agni. So this is what we're shooting for, is the optimal metabolism. So here in the slide, all diseases begin in the gut. Agni imbalance is the root cause of all diseases. Problems with Agni predisposes creation of Ama, right? So this is what we're talking about. Sama Agni is what we are trying to establish. All diseases start in the gut. So predisposition, low ojas. Low ojas means low immunity, poor diet and lifestyle, excess sugar, alcohol, stress, environmental toxins. So in the days of this pandemic, COVID-19, we really need to focus on strengthening your gut, your immunity. One of the things I've been reading, I've been reading all kinds of things, because this is like, oh my God, this is like so many literature out there, so many studies and things like that. Everything is really leading to one thing and one thing only, is your immunity. This is what's happening, because we talk about this antibody and whatnot. So even if you get this, if your immunity is strong, so your natural immunity is going to take care of it, right? We are exposed to flu every season. Not everybody gets sick. So we have acquired some immunity. So most of the things I have seen so far is people with some kind of predisposed or pre-existing conditions, even in the young population, because unfortunately in our country here, there's young people with so many different autoimmune conditions. So they have already have compromised immunity. So therefore, if your immunity is compromised and you have conditions such as type 2 diabetes, or leaky gut, or whatever you may call it, so then your immunity is compromised. So then you cannot really deal with this external pathogen, right? So that's where people get really sick. So this is the mantra, my friends, is we need to heal the gut. If we can do that, then we are at least somehow maintaining the shield around these kind of pandemic.
Excuse me, Manish, we have a question.
Yes.
Pradnya asks, what herbs would you suggest to increase Agni?
Well, that's I would say this. There are some Agni increasing herbs such as ginger and turmeric and things like that. But again, I don't wanna paint with a broad brush that one size does not fit all. So even if you say you want to increase Agni, I want to understand why your Agni is low in the first place. Again, this is not a one size fits all. This is a system medicine. We need to look at your system. What is your relationship with your environment? What is your daily food habit? What's your exercise pattern? How do you release stress? So I want to understand what is the state of your current ojas, which is your immunity. What are the surrounding, like what are the factors that is influencing your Agni, which is your metabolic strength, right? So once we establish that, then we can recommend certain herbs. But then I don't want to make a general recommendation, because this is not a modern medicine. Like across the board, if you have a headache, you give Advil, right? It's not going to work. There are three different kinds of headaches in Ayurveda: Vata headache, Pitta headache, and a Kapha headache, right? So which one is it? Where is this coming from? Just because you have a headache, migraine headache, doesn't mean we have to treat the same way. But generally speaking, the ginger, for example, ignites your Agni, your digestive fire. That's why one of the practices we do here is, especially in our in our monthly workshop, we at the workshop we also serve food which is prepared in the classroom, in the kitchen, in the classroom. So 15 minutes before we serve a meal, Ayurvedic meal, we have a slice of ginger and we squeeze a little bit of lemon and then we sprinkle some salt. Why are we doing that 15 minutes? We are trying to reignite the Agni, digestive fire. Okay, letting the gut know that the food is about to come. So we are almost like the analogy is trying to crank the fire, right before cranking the fire we start with the kindlings and some papers, and then we slowly start to put the logs, right? So we're trying to put the kindlings and the papers like 15 minutes before the meal with a slice of ginger. This is a typical Agni enhancing herb in Ayurveda is fresh ginger. So that would be my recommendation, but I would not recommend even like a kitchen herb without knowing the true condition of your Agni and the Ama. Stage 1 of disease process, so dosa imbalance and a weakened Agni leading to production of Ama. I hope everybody is clear by now what we are talking about here. Dosha imbalance means whatever your dosha combination of dosha is, they go out of balance. Why? Because of the weakening Agni, which is your digestive fire is weakening. Whatever the reason is, maybe dietary reasons or lifestyle, too much stress, because as you know, too much stress, totally 60 to 70% of our immunity is formed in the gut, right? So the stress is #1 reason that depletes our Agni. So just because if we're eating healthy doesn't mean if you have overwhelming amount of stress on a daily basis, that's going to kill this immunity. So weakened Agni leading to production of Ama. Once the Agni or the fire is low or depleting, then there is a production of toxins. So that's the stage 1 of a disease process. So this is one of the beautiful from the text, one of the Ayurvedic texts, the signs of Siddha Ama are clogging of channels, sense of heaviness, low energy, relentless lethargy, indigestion, congestion. If you feel any of those, we need to address that, and we really need to address the whole system. So there's a problem here. So this is the disease process we're talking about here. So if you are feeling any of these, then definitely there is a Ama involved, the low Agni involved, all of those things. Words of wisdom. This is another scholar in Ayurveda, one of the doctors in Ayurveda, Charak. The physical body is a product of diet and sensory inputs, which is lifestyle. Similarly, all ailments are the product of faulty diet and lifestyle, and health is the result of right diet and lifestyle. This concept is the basis of health promotion and disease prevention. So this is beautiful from the chapter 1 of Sushruta Samhita, one of the Ayurvedic text we had to study during our school. Microbiome.
Excuse me, Manish, we have a question.
Okay.
Fatima asks, would surgery increase Ama and weaken Agni?
Absolutely, good question, Fatima. Yes, surgery, basically what is happening when we have a surgery? The body is trying to heal itself, right? So at that time, the immunity is absolutely compromised. Therefore, once after the surgery, one should not be eating this heavy food. So they should be on a very, very simple soup and a nourishing, Agni enhancing diet and lifestyle. So that is a very, very critical time of healing after the surgery. Yes, absolutely. Immunity is heavily compromised at that time, and one should not be eating, even if somebody craves, should not be eating heavy, hard to digest food. Very, very simple, nourishing soup and stews would be recommended at that time. And some of the kitchen herbs, like which enhances Agni, very, very simple kitchen herbs, but nothing heavy food. At that time, there's no Agni, there's no digestive strength to digest heavy food. Microbiome, you guys know about this. Ayurveda has been saying this for thousands of years. my friends, but nobody seemed to have been listening. But now, finally, now the modern medicine has been coming up with lot of these research upon research for in the last 10 years or so. So now people are really aware about what is really going on in our gut. There's 10 trillion microorganisms, right? This is from more like an allopathic concept here. That's why we pay so much focus, because I started this slide presentation with all diseases begin in the gut. And now look what is happening in the modern science is saying 10 times more microbes than human cells in the body. This is what it does. Microbiome, your gut. The gut is doing all of those things: regulate metabolism, protect against infections, promote normal GI functions. All of those things are happening in the gut. Everything. So we really have to go. Therefore, in Ayurveda, there is a famous saying. It says, we treat the gut to treat the brain, not the other way around. We treat the gut to treat the brain. Okay, so because there's an intimate connection between the gut and the brain to the vagus nerve, you guys know this. So there's an intimate connection between the gut and the brain. So therefore, it is paramount to have a cleaner, healthy gut, and so many factors we talked about how to do that. Gut health and Ayurveda. This is one of the from the book. We put that together here. So some of the kitchen herbs. So these are some of the kitchen herbs we use in a daily basis in Ayurvedic cooking. One of the things I do, because for me, it's very important to practice what you preach, kind of thing. And I see so many patients, like everybody's common complaint is, I don't have time to cook and I don't know how to cook, right? That's the common theme I hear all the time. So what I decided to do about like 6-7 years ago, I basically had to come up with a plan, like how can I help people to help them cook. So that's why I established this like monthly workshop in town, where we have our own classroom with a kitchen, and then where we train people how to do Ayurvedic cooking. And obviously sometimes we have different topics, but most of the time it's focused on Ayurvedic cooking and using these herbs while we are doing that cooking. So at the end of the workshop, everybody gets to enjoy a lovely meal, and then hopefully they go home and then start cooking again, and then we send out recipes and so forth. Because in Ayurveda, it's so important. We can have all these intellectual knowledge, but without the practicality about cooking every day at your home, it is incomplete. At least for me, it has been, because I was like, I was seeing so many people, and then with the treatments and the herbs, but then I did not see significant changes in their health until I realized, okay, I really need to hammer down, like I want to address how people are eating at their home in a daily basis. So once we started doing that, then we really saw the difference in people's health, because these are the herbs. There's no side effects, but also you have to first know your constitution to how much to use of all, because one size again does not fit all. If you are a predominantly Vata constitution, you might want to avoid some of the drying herbs. If you're a predominantly Pitta constitution, you might want to avoid some of the heating herbs, like even like a ginger and turmeric, for example. Typical ginger and turmeric kitchen herbs, they are heating in nature, right? They're heating. In Ayurveda, we talk about heating and cooling properties of herbs. What is the post-digestive effect? What happens, when we are combining? So most of the time, when we are combining herbs, it has a synergistic effect. The effect is so enhanced. So therefore, most of the time in cooking, we are using not just one or two, we are using 4 or 5 different herbs. So it's very, very important to use some of the herbs, but again, first understanding your dosha or your constitution. Turmeric, as you know, in Chinese medicine, it's used heavily, so it's ginger. So tridosic. Tridosic word means it it when this herb is used, it does not, it has no contraindication for any of the dosha, meaning all of the doshas are neutral. So some herb is like we don't recommend for certain dosha because of their energetic properties, like uh, um, but turmeric and ginger is tridosic, so it balances all doshas. That means tridosic means balances all doshas, but does not aggravate any doshas in particular. That means tridosic herb. This is a very good one. So same with ginger. This is antibiotic, antibiotic, antiviral, antifungal, hemostatic. Hemostatic means it stopped bleeding. Back in the days when they didn't have the band-aid or anything like that, when somebody had a cut, they would sprinkle some turmeric in their skin, and then it would stop bleeding. So it's a hemostatic herb, stops bleeding. For women, when they're have a heavy menstrual cycle, it is often used, so it slows down the bleeding. So it's internal or external. It's a really good one to be using. It is sown for cancer, type 2 diabetes. One of the formula I have been using, again, I'm not recommending in particular here, but I have used for a type 2 diabetic patient, like um, who was on insulin for almost 28 years, and I changed his diet and lifestyle completely, and I used this formula: turmeric, fenugreek, and cinnamon, 3 equal parts. Turmeric powder, cinnamon powder, and fenugreek powder equal part, a couple of times a day. Again, I'm not recommending across the board here before knowing your constitution or what's the cause of imbalance. But for this particular patient, it worked, and then within 6 months, their primary care was able to reduce his insulin into half after using it for 28 years. So it is possible. So
Excuse me, Manish, we have several
yes,
questions.
okay.
A couple of questions specifically about turmeric.
Mhm.
Pradnya asks, what is the best way to consume turmeric?
Mhm. Okay.
And Taffy asks, people are taking so much turmeric now, can you take too much?
Good question. First of all, the way you want to use turmeric is best form is cooking. What happens is turmeric needs some kind of lipid. Lipid means fat. So to absorb and assimilate in your body properly. So therefore, I never recommend anybody to take turmeric pills. That's a waste of money. It's going to go down the drain. So it's just a waste of money. Just like it's a placebo effect, it's not going to do anything. Again, this is based on Ayurvedic text I'm talking about. I'm not a, I am, I'm not a Ayurvedic scholar like a Charak who practiced like 3,000 years ago, but based on the observations in the Ayurvedic text, it has to be cooked with some kind of fat. But again, to increase the potency, you want to use black pepper. It has shown to increase its potency a lot with black pepper. So therefore, in the Ayurvedic cooking, we always use some black pepper or some kind of heating spices or some kind of chilies or black pepper to enhance that assimilation. So black pepper is a good way to do it. So I have in a mucus sinus formula, I have used this formula, which is one teaspoon of turmeric, not turmeric, sorry, 1 teaspoon of raw honey with half teaspoon of turmeric and half teaspoon of black pepper, making a paste. although there's no fat, but at least black pepper, we call it the delivery agent in Ayurveda. Black pepper is often considered a FedEx. FedEx, you know how FedEx delivers packages? So FedEx of Ayurveda is black pepper. So it takes it to the proper places. So I have used that formula, like a 1 teaspoon to 1 tablespoon of raw honey, depending upon your constitution. Again, raw honey or any honey is very heating in nature, so I would not do too much, especially in the summertime. In the winter and spring is a good time to do it because it is drying and heating herbs, so then it can release your mucus production. So 1 teaspoon to 1 tablespoon of raw honey with half teaspoon of turmeric, half teaspoon of black pepper mixed in really well. This is more like for the sinus and cold and flu kind of a symptoms with a lot of runny nose and mucus production. So I have used that and been very effective. So that's the way to use turmeric. Ideally, I would cook with some kind of either ghee or coconut oil or avocado oil. One of those kind of things is appropriate. As far as the amount of turmeric, how much is too much? Yes, you don't want to do too much, especially you are Vata and Pitta dosha type. Vata type are always dry, rough, and cold, right? So you don't want to make your body too dry either, because this is drying and heating herb, turmeric is, and so is ginger. So you don't want to do too much. So I would do maximum maybe a day, like 1 teaspoon at best. That should be enough at the moment in the spring, but in the summer, not even that. Maybe half teaspoon should be enough, because summer naturally our immunity is naturally strong. Why? We are exposed to more sun, we are more active in nature, so therefore your body starts to move and your body starts to get more vitamin D, which has a direct relationship with your immunity. So therefore we don't get sick as often as in the summer as compared to fall, winter, and spring. So after those colder months, I would go down to half teaspoon when you're cooking. But if you're a kapha dosha, you can do a little bit more, because kapha already has a lot of fluid and more mucus in the system. So kapha can do maybe up to 1 teaspoon even in the summertime, but in the winter time they can do even more. So again, understand your dosha, understand your type. It cannot be across the board recommendation. And again, another thing is, what are the other factors you are experiencing is very important. Even this is a kitchen herb, you don't want to do too much either. Okay, this is more like a medicinal grade kitchen herb. This is not like a food. This is not like a dandelion greens. This is not like a chard or kale.
Okay, we have a couple other questions about turmeric, and then a couple other general questions.
Sure.
So Fatima asks, should someone with scanty periods avoid turmeric? And Misha asks, would these be safe in pregnancy in culinary amounts?
Yes, the second question is yes, but you don't want to do too much during pregnancy, because you don't want to overheat yourself too much. But in the cooking, yeah, the culinary amount absolutely is no problem there during pregnancy. And the first question is, scanty period means there is a vata imbalance. So all the menstrual cycle is regulated by vata dosha. So therefore there's a vata imbalance. Just turmeric alone, I do not think would be the answer. Again, we need to understand the whole body system, why somebody is having scanty period. Therefore, we need to understand, why is vata not moving effortlessly, or why vata is out of balance. That is a typical vata imbalance problem, and turmeric may be one of the herb, but it's not be all end all herb. Okay.
Okay, let me look back. There were a couple of other questions here. Okay, we have a couple we have several questions coming in. One is about triphala, one is
Mhm.
about flax, and then we have a
Mhm.
couple other turmeric questions.
Got it.
So going back to the triphala question,
Mhm.
Nicole says, Michael Tierra has suggested taking triphala on a daily basis to help cleanse the body and balance the doshas. Do you recommend taking triphala every day? And if so, how much per day? And is this safe for pregnant women?
Well, anybody, during the detoxification process, like Michael mentioned, is good. But why do you need to detoxify your body for eternity? That's something is questionable, right? Why somebody has to detoxify their body for longer than 6 months? Normally, even in our gut healing protocol, we detoxify the body, for 6 months. But if it doesn't clean it out even at that time, maybe we go a little bit further. But then one should not be detoxing all the time. So if that's the case, we need to really look into other systems of the body, like an emotional state or environmental state. Maybe perhaps there's a mold exposure or other environmental exposures and things like that, or extreme amount of stress which is not handled. So during the detoxification process, yes, I do use triphala, but again, I'm not gonna mention the dose because one size does not fit all. It depends on your age, your weight, your body weight, amount of ama, how much ama you have. All of those things needs to be considered. It cannot be across the board, like a dose. So yes, during the detoxification process, yes, but not every day, like food. Triphala is not a food grade herb. It's the medicinal grade herb, so it is not supposed to be taken for eternity. What was the other question again?
There was a question. Pradna asks, there are talks that flax seeds are
Mhm.
clogging. Is that correct?
Flax seeds is actually, people who have a lot of problems with the bowel movement. It's one of the demulsifier herb, meaning it moves the channels so that you have a healthy bowel. What it does is basically it is a solid source of fiber. So fiber is the one we need in our daily, in our body in a daily basis. A lot of fibers are in legumes, beans, lentils, that kind of a thing, and also a lot of greens, leafy vegetables, right? And also a lot of skin of a lot of fruits, like apple is a perfect example, right? So a lot of fibers we need. We don't eat or consume enough fiber in our modern day diet. If you look at the hunter gatherer diet, Stanford had done this beautiful research, like they look into the lifestyle and the diet pattern of the hunter gatherers, and then compared to human, it's like we're not even doing like 10% of fibers compared to what they were doing, right? So that's why we have all these problems like a type 2 diabetes and all that excess sugar. Everything is sugar. What does fiber does is it stops excess blood sugar going into the bloodstream. So fiber is so important. It's so paramount. It's important for our daily bowel movement. So flax seeds, again, we should not be doing excess amount. Normally, I recommend flax seeds in my, I have this medicinal oatmeal recipe. I ask my people, my clients, to add in a little bit in the morning, because morning time we need a little bit more excess fiber, especially people who have a bowel movement problem. They don't have a daily bowel movement, so that they can have the bowel movement first in the morning with the fiber. Flax seeds is good, but not in excess. So that's how we look at it in Ayurveda.
Okay, we are right up at 11 o'clock. I'd like
Mhm.
to go through a couple more questions and then take our break.
Sounds good.
Okay, let's see. Uh, we have two different students asking basically the same question. How do you cook for a family of different doshas?
Oh, it's easy. So what we do is, if you understand different dosha type, so what you do is you try to use tridosic herbs. Tridosic herbs are like a turmeric, ginger, cumin, coriander. So what happens? The alchemy of Ayurvedic cooking is if you are combining these 6 and 7 different herbs, like for example, ajwan, fenugreek, coriander, cumin, turmeric, asafoetida, which is hing, and ginger. All of these, what happens is it becomes so synergistic that it becomes tridoshic. That means all doshas could be nourished. So then you don't have to worry about, I have to cook one food for one type, one food for that. Then you don't have to. That's the alchemy of Ayurvedic cooking. It's the synergistic. How do you combine the herbs? That's exactly why we wanted to do this cooking workshop every single month, for that very reason, because you don't have to. If you have like 5 people, you don't have to cook 5 meals. You just have to know how to use all these herbs, synergistic herbs, so that the doshas do not aggravate. Actually, you pacify the doshas.
Okay. Another turmeric question, and a detoxifying question, and then I think that's it. Then we'll take our break.
Sounds good.
So, can turmeric be used in allergies? If so, how should you take it?
Yeah, turmeric can be used for allergy, but again, what I would suggest is I would want to understand where that allergy is coming from, what is the root cause, because in Ayurveda, we try to understand the root cause, but not the symptoms. I don't want to give out the symptoms recipe, but what I want to understand, what is the main reason somebody have an allergy. There are so many different types of allergies: vata allergy, pitta allergy, and kapha allergy. So therefore, turmeric is great, but I would not just use turmeric. There are other formulas, like things like herbs, like mangista is something I would probably use along with turmeric, and other formulas, like perhaps like triphala. But I want to understand, where is this coming from? What is the present state of imbalance? Where is that cause from? So that would be my investigation first.
Okay, and then final question before our break. Is
Mhm.
there a better time of year to detoxify than others, or is that according to dosha?
That's a good question. Yes, in Ayurveda, there are 3 seasonal transition times. We are in the seasonal transition times right now, because this spring is between winter and summer. That's a good time to detox. Another seasonal transition time is fall, between summer and winter, because what happens is we came from a long winter with the winter kind of a diet, very heavy, rich in fat and protein diet. So now in the spring, we try to get rid of all those excess fat and protein, which we have been accumulated in the winter months. So now we are going into more like a lot of greens and vegetables, like a kind of a plant-based diet in the spring. And then in the summer, even so, because there's tremendous amount of fruits and phytonutrients in the amounts of fruits, like cherries and berries. So we don't do a lot of fat and protein at that time. So we change based on the season. Therefore, the best time to detox is seasonal transition time. One is between summer and winter, which is fall, and one is right now, which is between winter and summer. Spring season is a seasonal transition, which we call it Ritu Sandhi. Ritu Sandhi. Ritu means season, Sandhi means transition. So this is the time. Ritu, R-I-T-U, Ritu. Sandhi means S-A-N-D-H-I, Sandhi. These are the 2 times we try to detox, regardless of your dosha. However, if your dosha is too weak, if you feel really weak and some kind of disease, active disease condition, we don't recommend detoxing, especially people just out of surgery, or people just had a cancer or something like that. we just wait before the immunity is a little bit stronger, because during the the detox time, your immunity has to be somewhat in a stable condition before we do the detox. Okay.
Okay, we're going to pause here. I do see that a couple other questions came up, but let's go ahead and take our break, and we'll take a couple of questions after our break.
Sounds good, Sheila.
And then Manish, during the break, I'm going to see if we can make the question panel visible to you.
Sounds good.
But I have 11:05. Let's take a 10-minute break and come back at 11:15. Okay?
Sounds good. Sounds good. See you then.
Thanks, everyone. Hello, Manish, are you there? Can you hear me? Hi, Manish. Hello.
Hi there.
So changed your I've changed your status from presenter to presenter and organizer, and I think that allows you to see the questions. So if you click on that little triangle arrow on questions, you should be able to see everything that folks are typing in. Are you able to see that now?
Let me see. Yeah,
What's on?
so you will still monitor this, correct, Sheila?
Yes, I'll still monitor it.
Okay, because I'm not gonna, okay. So let's go back to sharing. So how do I share this thing now?
Which is it that you're trying to share?
I'm trying to share, where's my, okay, here.
So we've got your slide presentation up now. I can see it. Yep,
Okay,
that's great.
all right. So would you like to start with those questions?
Yeah, let's see. So a couple of general questions about your work with Santa Cruz Ayurveda. One person asks, let's see, Stacy asks, can he make his cooking class available online for those of us that don't have Ayurvedic support locally? And related, Fatima asks, can Manish do his program long distance or does it have to be in person?
Yeah, both questions. The first question, we are, because I prefer doing in person, but I'm also aware about this situation which we are in right now brought me a pause, and then I figured that we may have to do long distance. And actually that's what I've been doing for last 1 month, is I've been basically seeing my clients virtually on the computer, consultation and whatnot. But part of the Ayurvedic treatment is Ayurvedic massage, which is obviously cannot be offered long distance. So at least we are doing the consultation long distance. And as far as our workshop goes, yes, we are actively working towards that now, so we can have either live our workshop, or we can entirely record it on the video and then send it out to people. So we're working towards that, especially this epidemic or pandemic uh, is like making me think like we may have to do that, because even locally people may not be able to come. This has been going on for 6 years, this workshop. So yes, our programs are offered long distance, except for the Ayurvedic massage. Ayurvedic massage is very unique because in Ayurveda, one of the detoxification protocol is not the internal detoxification, but also external detoxification. As you know, skin is the biggest organ of our detoxification. And in Ayurvedic massage, what we do is we have these Ayurvedic oils, which has like 10, 12 different herbs infused either in sesame or coconut oil. Most of the time we use sesame oil because we are still in the spring season, and sesame seed oil is heating in property. So we use sesame, and also it's coconut oil is it's forms like it becomes solid quickly. So we use the sesame oil infused with like a 10, 12 different Ayurvedic herbs. So what we are doing is it's almost like the stroke of the Ayurvedic massage. It's a lymphatic stroke. So we're trying to move the limbs. That's where the detoxification happening. We're releasing toxins from the limbs every day. So I don't do that massage. My therapist in office, she does that. She's a trained massage therapist, but trained in Ayurvedic massage. And so lymphatic strokes, and your body is completely soaked, like completely like soaked in a warm oil, because that oil is warmed up. And then what happens when you apply anything warm, your pores open up, and the herbs and the oil goes in through your pores, and at the same time the toxins are released. It's called like two-way traffic, like a two-way traffic happening. The toxins are released from the skin, and the herbs are infused, transdermal infusion through your skin. So it's a beautiful symphony of detoxification happening in that Ayurvedic massage. That's the only thing we cannot offer long distance, obviously, but our workshop, we are working towards doing that long distance in the future. Definitely the Ayurvedic consultations can be, we have been doing that long distance for a long time now, because not all of our client base are in Santa Cruz or the surroundings. So yes, those are our thoughts in the future. We would like to have that live, the workshop.
Okay, we have a couple other questions. One regarding the properties of turmeric, and another regarding coming up with a custom diet. In Tressie asks, in traditional Chinese medicine, we are supposed to avoid turmeric for liver yin deficiency. Does Ayurveda allow it in culinary amounts regardless, since it is tridoshic?
Yes, in Ayurveda, yes, especially for liver, any kind of liver imbalances. Liver is where, Pitta dosha is involved. Definitely, we use that in culinary amount, yes. Again, that's a good question, because we don't want to across the board use turmeric all same dose all for all doshas. Pittas may need a little bit less or more depending upon what the condition is, where the cause is coming from. And Vata, because of the dryness, we try to be careful and mindful with Vata. Kapha, generally, we can be a little bit more loose around kaphas with the turmeric, because they already have a lot of fluids and a lot of phlegm and mucus. So in the culinary amount, absolutely, I do not see harm. At least in Ayurvedic text, I haven't seen any harm with turmeric.
Okay, and then Lauren asks, hi Manish, what would you recommend for someone who follows a vegan diet and is also interested in following a 3 seasons Ayurvedic diet?
Oh, it's a possible. You could be vegan, vegetarian, or regardless of what your food choice is, you just avoid some of the dairy products. In Ayurveda, one of the big big thing we use in Ayurveda is ghee, which clarified butter, purified butter. Ghee has a natural butyric acid, which actually in the healthy gut, butyric acid is formed in our gut, in our intestinal lining every day. So that's when there's a mucosal lining that has to have butyric acid, so that the food doesn't get trapped and your microbiome is healthy, so that there's no like a permeability, like there's no chances of leaky gut syndrome with the food particle passing into your bloodstream. So butyric acid is healthy, but if your gut is healthy, your gut is already producing butyric acid. But ghee has a couple of properties, which is not just butyric acid, but also it's a nervine tonic, meaning it calms the nerves. Anything fatty, which actually calms the nerves. And then unfortunately, as you know, most of you, since you are studying TCM, know this, about last 30 or 40 years, we've been avoiding fat as like a plague. Healthy fat, that is. I'm not talking about French fried, deep fried oil, but healthy fat like avocado oil or sesame or mustard or coconut or olive oil or ghee. Those are a healthy source of fat, but then we've been avoiding like a plague everything non-fat, but then we're depleting the fat from everything, including our brain. So then now we're going into the starvation mode all the time, into sugar, which is also healthy. Carbs is a good thing, like complex and simple carbs, but then we're going into this bad sugar binge, and then we're seeing so many problems in our society with so many complications, sugar addiction, right? So it is good. I mean, fat, if you are vegan, I would still suggest to do some other non-dairy fat, like either coconut, although it's a cooling, Source of fat, meaning especially in the winter, is very cooling, but maybe perhaps sesame oil or avocado is a good one. Some kind of healthy fat source is essential, even if you're vegan, even if you're not doing ghee. That would be my recommendation, because healthy fat is key, you guys. It's essential for our brain function, for our gut function, for all the fluids, especially as we age. The fluid level starts to deplete, as you know. When we're young, it's more production, but then as we age, like 40, 50, past, like especially like later age, because what happens is from birth until puberty, we're in the kapha stage of life. So that's why when we're young, like a kids, like toddlers, always runny nose, so much fluid production, right? Runny nose, like a lot of flu, all these symptoms, there's so much fluid production. Why? Because the kapha, which is a building block, is active, because we are in the growing phase. That's, we are in the kapha stage, it's in the building block age. So from puberty up until like a 60 or so, like 55, 60, we're in the pitta stage of life. We're like dynamic, we're like career oriented, like go-getter type, like we're trying to think about our career like a so-called false sense of like success, or like name and fame and all that kind of a thing. Dynamism, right? Dynamic life from puberty up until that time. Naturally your pitta dosa is very active. That's when we're fired up, ready to go kind of a feeling, right? And then from then on, what happens when we enter into the vata stage of life, then our joints and bones are crackling because the fluids are depleting in our body, those kind of things. So to address that, if we constantly think about giving fat, a healthy source of fat, then when we age towards old age, we still have good health.
Okay, there was another general question that came up right before the break, and this might be something to answer via email, but someone asks, what are the primary classic textbooks in Ayurveda? So I think, do you have a recommended reading list for Ayurveda?
Well, the classic texts are, there are 3 texts in Ayurveda we use traditionally, classically used. Now you can find in translated in English. That's something I had to, because I studied Sanskrit while I was living in Nepal, but that was like in the middle school or something. I studied Sanskrit for 5 years while I was in Nepal, but then I moved right after high school to the US, to California. So I'm not a Sanskrit scholar, but I can read and read and write Sanskrit relatively okay, right? But I'm not a Sanskrit scholar, so I did study this 3 different texts we were required, which is Charak Samhita, Susrut Samhita, Bhagavad, and there was a last one, 4th one, which is Astanga Hridayam. So those are the 4 we were required, which was translated in English for all for our school. I went to school, by the way, locally here, 1 hour away from where I live in Santa Cruz. So those are the texts I can include in that email. By the way, during the break, I was preparing that email to be sent out to Sheila and Jill. One was the definition of health, which I recited in Sanskrit and translated in English, and also the peace prayer. All of those are preparing. I'll add that into that email. So there are the 3 or 4 texts I recommend you can read if you really want to go into detail into Ayurveda.
Okay, so we're at 11:30 and we've got 1 more hour today. So I think let's just go ahead and Manish, let you continue your presentation. And I'm going to suggest holding questions, and we'll take some time for questions at the end. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
So okay, going forward, you know, again, I wanna talk about a few things. This is something um, I wanna talk about. Um, so okay, so right now we are in the we are in the kapha season. So what happens is, this is what I want to talk about, like a seasonal routine and daily routine according to Ayurveda. So what happens is, you know, you guys may have heard this word circadian rhythm, right? Circadian rhythm is nothing but um, moving our daily cycle, or living with the daily cycle with nature. So basically living your life in with biorhythm of nature, biorhythm of nature. That's the circadian rhythm. Cyclical rhythm or circadian rhythm is often talked about. So that is huge in Ayurveda. Why that is important is, you know, so in the morning, for example, so between 6 and 10 in the morning is a kapha time. Kapha time 6 to 10. So normally what happens is when we wake up, do you guys feel like a little bit of like a clearing the lungs? A lot of people cough and then clear the lungs because there's mucus trapped or phlegm or whatnot, right? So that's when the kapha builds up, like the 6 to 10 in the morning. Naturally, that's when we wake up and then we cough out all the mucus if there is any. So naturally, that's the time kapha is very active. What is the elements of kapha? Earth and water. So therefore, that's the time not to be eating heavy food. So breaking the fast, look at this English word, break fast, break the fast. What is the fast? Hopefully we haven't eaten anything all night long since like a dinner the night before, right? So we are just breaking the fast. We should not be having like things like a three-course meal, like eggs, bacon, potatoes, smoothies and ice cream and all coffee, you know, all of these things is not proper according to Ayurveda, because that's the kapha time of day. That's the time you should be doing lighter food, preferably something like a fiber loaded, something like I talked about, our medicinal oatmeal, for example, right? So what happens with oatmeal has fiber in it, and then that helps. Hopefully, it's a demulsifying. It loosens the channel. So hopefully you'll have a bowel movement. Hopefully your colon will thank you for it, because your colon needs to be lubricated. It cannot be dry. So if you add a little bit of a healthy fat, you know, you can add some coconut oil, like, you know, or if you are not vegan, then you can add some ghee and some turmeric, some ginger and some flax seeds in it. So it makes it a nice, good fiber loaded breakfast in the morning. Why? Again, it's a kapha time. That's not the time to be eating heavy food. So from 10 until 2, we go into the pitta time, high metabolic time, because that's the time you energetically we are work very like a productive. So that's the time, the between 12 and 2, sun is very strong. So naturally, when the sun is strong, guess what? Our metabolic strength of fire internally is very strong as well. So that's the time to be having a main meal of the day between 12 and 2. And if you want to get some sun, soak in the sun these days, we want to increase our immunity through vitamin D. So vitamin C is another one, but vitamin D, natural source of sunlight, we soak in the sun between that time, between 12 and 2. That's when naturally it's cracked, not like 6 in the evening, right? The sun is almost warm. or 3 in the afternoon. It's not that very strong between 12 and 2. So that's the time to be soaking in if you're going to soak in the sun. So 10 and 2 is the pitta time of the day. And then from 2 to 6 is the vata time of the day. Again, 2 to 6, we are a little bit like, winding down from work, so trying to have dinner. So that's not the time again. Maybe some hot water, hot tea between 2 and 6, because that's the vata time of the day. Vata needs warm. What are the qualities, characteristics of vata? 3 qualities: rough, cold, dry. We have to do just the opposite, right? What is the opposite of rough, dry, and cold? Moist, warm, and hot. So those are the qualities we want to have at that time. And then from 6 to 10 is a kapha time again at night. 6 to 10 kapha. That's not the time to be eating a heavy food. The dinner should be lighter again, the lighter dinner, because that's the kapha time, heavy time. So that's the time we again eat something soup, warm, like if it's you live in a cold weather, warm soup, warm stews, or some warm things, warm cooked things, not necessarily cold. In the middle of the day, if it's warm and nice like today, it's a lovely day here, you can have a nice salad in the middle of the day between 12 and 2. Hopefully you guys have time to eat some lunch today. So, but not at nighttime, not heavy, not like steak, potatoes, that kind of a 3-course meal again. No way. Not that, because then what happens? You ate the biggest meal at the kapha time of the night, and then you sleep. You're not, using energy as much at nighttime. We're basically sleeping, 7, 8 hours, and the next day the food is still there, that has not digested. We feel lethargy, heavy. Oh, I need coffee to get up. Oh, I need something sugar to get through the day. So then this vicious cycle continues, right? Then we're never out of this cycle, and then we accumulate ama, undigested food, all night long. That heaviest food has been sitting there. Ama production. That ama production depletes the agni, digestive fire. So see, this is the vicious cycle. So the time of day, we really have to be aware. Ideally, going to bed around 10 o'clock. They say in the text like a couple of hours after sunset. These days, the sunset around here is like around 8 o'clock. So a couple of hours after sunset, 10 o'clock, ideal bedtime. And then getting up around 6, that gives you around 8 hours of sleep, which is perfect, right? And then you get up in the morning, have some, going first thing. Hopefully you have a first thing bowel movement, and then cleaning your, brushing your teeth, scraping your tongue, washing your face, whatever your morning ritual is, lubricating. Actually, in Ayurveda, it's a big lubrication, like in all the openings, we lubricate, like your nasal passes, your air canals, ears are lubricated, nose either at nighttime or in the morning, first thing in the morning. Do you feel good? And then do some meditation and yoga, or have some exercise or walking, or whatever that may be for you. Best time to meditate definitely we call it Amrita Bela. Amrita Bela is divine time of nectar. Amrit means divine nectar. It's very powerful time, right? Early birds get the worms. So that's the same. So it's a very divine time, very angelic time in the morning it becomes very powerful experience, meditation and yoga. So perhaps like getting up, doing that, and having a nice, like easy, small breakfast, very nourishing breakfast. And then lunch in the middle of the day between 12 and 2. That should be your main meal, like protein, carbs, whatever you have configured. I would suggest some kind of grain, some kind of protein, and a lot of greens and vegetables, a lot of greens, a lot of bitter greens. Bitter cleanse the liver, right? These days we need to stay put, meaning really crank that liver. Make sure your intestinal lining, the mucosa or the villi, the intestinal villi are all clean, not trapped with food. And these greens and vegetables does just that. Especially those greens, it has you know, rough surface, right? Rough, it's like a rough surface that really scrapes, just like the broom cleans or sweeps. It has a sweeping properties in our intestinal lining. So something like that. So the lunch should consist of some kind of greens, vegetables. If you eat meat or fish or whatever, that's the time to do it. And then some kind of grains or lectins. Lectins also has protein. Lectins is talked about a lot. Like for example, Stephen Gundry talked about lectin. Lectin in Ayurveda, obviously Ayurveda understood about lectin thousands of years ago. So there's a substance outside, like a coating, you know, any lentils and beans, right? That the outside surface, like almost a skin, that has lectin. That's a protein. So that has to be cooked. So if that is not well cooked, then you have gas and bloating. That's why people go to Mexican food, burritos or whatnot, and then you have gas and bloating because that has not been soaked. It hasn't been cooked properly. It either has to be cooked in pressure cooker, or even if you do not have a pressure cooker, it has to be cooked for a while. And in Ayurveda, always cooked with asafoetida, hing. Hing really cooks that lectins, that surface lectins. So that's the thing Ayurveda understood long before Stephen Gundry understood about lectins. So it's very important to use those either you use the pressure cooker, and obviously even if you use the pressure cooker, you want to use the asafoetida hing besides other spices. Hing is essential asafoetida, that what takes care of the lectins. So lectins, some kind of legumes or beans or lentils, and some kind of grains, either quinoa or brown rice or basmati rice, you know, um, barley or, you know, other grains of your choice, and some kind of protein if you have to. If you are in a plant-based diet, which is wonderful actually, Ayurveda promotes, to be honest with you, promotes non-violence. Non-violence means not harming anything, but you know, if you are not vegetarian, that's fine too. So just like being more selective, like you know, something raised, you know, humanely, like farm raised, not like a factory farm, you know, that kind of a thing. So there's possibility depending upon where you live. Um, so some protein, some definitely. So if you look at your plate size in the lunchtime, if you look at your plate, half of your plate should cover with greens and seasonal vegetables, and then 1/4 of your plate should cover with some kind of protein, which if you are vegan, then it would be lentils or beans or so forth. And if you're not, some kind of meat or fish or whatnot, if you're doing that, and then the 1/4 of the plate would be some kind of complex carb or simple carb like grains. So that should look like for lunchtime. That's the main meal of the day. And then the lighter dinner, lighter breakfast, that would give you more energy. And then in between meals, main meals, what is the snack, right? The snacking is very important. Meaning when I say snacking, some people snack all day. That is not a healthy practice. Let that food settle and digest. So what is the best snack in Ayurveda? Fresh fruits, seasonal fresh fruits every single day, every single day. Okay, you might wonder, well, how about nuts and seeds? Yes, you can do that depending how good of a digestive system you have and what is your dosha. Again, it's not one size across the board. It does not, you know, we don't do like that. So for nuts and seeds, you want to have a strong digestive fire to digest that. Otherwise, you would eat it, but you would not feel great. So make sure you have good agni, which is digestive fire for nuts and seeds. So you can do a little bit of nuts and seeds, but I would not do a roasted one, because then if you have roasted one, the oil particles in the nuts and seeds, that's what we need, is already gone. So we want to preserve that. So definitely raw. But if you're going to be doing raw, make sure your constitution is good enough to digest them. But at least fruits. Fruits is already right, we call it, cooked by nature. So therefore, we don't have to worry about cooking, right? So we just eat fresh fruits. Now we're almost going into, spring, like end of spring, almost. So we have a lot of fruits coming up in the summertime. Stone fruits. Now I've already seen in the farmers market last week, the strawberries are almost coming out. So a lot of those cherries, berries, which are amazing for the gut health, for the microbiome. Prebiotic and probiotic. We talk about that a lot, right? So because I am somebody who do not like to put anybody on any kind of supplementation. Even that's a good Ayurvedic supplement. I don't believe in that. I only use supplements for my 6 month gut healing protocol. After 6 months, no way. I'm not somebody who believe in supplementing throughout lifetime. That's not what Ayurveda is all about. Ayurveda is all about let food be your medicine, let food die be medicine, right? So food is your medicine. If we do all of these things, we should not be supplementing with triphala all the time, or satavari all the time, ashwagandha. If we have to do that all the time, there's something wrong. So we need to address deeper cause. So fruits are very, very important. Um, uh, you know, uh, so prebiotic means that foods that feeds uh, the bacteria. Probiotic is the bacteria itself. So there's the probiotic foods, but some people choose to do probiotic all the time. That's not a healthy approach. Again, why don't we get the prebiotic from the food? Why don't we get the probiotic from the food? If we do it right, we should be able to get that, right? But then first, if the gut is unhealthy, there's no probiotic. So how are we going to do that? So first fix the gut. So again, sorry, going back to the protocol of the food, lunch being the heaviest, light dinner, and then light breakfast. So that's our protocol in Ayurveda. And then same thing, like, at nighttime, what happens is from 10, we go to bed at 10, from 10 until 2 is the pitta time of night. That's when all your digestive organs are busy digesting and processing and rejuvenating at that time. So therefore, ideally, following the circadian rhythm when there's dark outside. So a lot of hormonal production happening right at night when we're sleeping. But if we're night owl, especially these days, we are exposed to blue lights like a computer light or a cell phone or any kind of artificial light that really disrupts our hormone production. So and over time, people have this sleeping problems, sleeping disorders, right? I have seen that over and over again. In the last 10 years or so, more and more people are, as a society, complaining about sleep, because we are so stimulated by our gadgets. So one of the recommendation at nighttime when we go to bed, ideally your devices should be turned off. Definitely should not be near your head or your bed, because it has EMF, electromagnetic field, that really disrupts. And Ayurveda clearly suggests to have a clean environment, and that includes all these devices needs to be turned off. So then our body goes with the rhythm of the night. So all the hormones start to produce. So we should not be sleeping in the bright light area. The room should be completely dark. There should be curtain so that we are not exposed to the bright light. And then even if you're to get up at night to go to the bathroom, have a dim light or something so you're not exposed to bright light. That really disrupts the production of different hormones, which happens, all the detoxification, by the way, starts to kick in when we are in complete sleep or a rest mode. That happens when we're sleeping, right? So the liver is detoxifying, kidney is detoxifying, all of these big organs start to detoxify, but if we're wide awake, it's not going to happen. Again, 10 to 2 is the pitta time. That's the liver time. That's cranking. All the pitta organs are cranking. And then from 2 until 6 in the morning is a vata time. All the, colon, all these vata organs are cranking. And then from 6 to 10 in the morning is the kapha. So that's how the routine goes. So it's very, very important to follow the circadian rhythm. It has the direct relationship with your immunity, following the circadian rhythm. And Ayurveda understood it a long time ago, and no wonder I'm looking at so many different peer-reviewed articles and studies, and you guys can check it out, hundreds and hundreds of them about circadian rhythm and the immunity, the relationship between our health and the circadian rhythm. Hundreds and hundreds of articles out there. So the modern science is validating this concept, which is wonderful, very, very beautiful. So some of the things, next slide, I'm going to go into, we are almost to the end of these slides, but I have other materials here I'm going to talk about. So this next one is, I only listed turmeric and ginger on this slideshow presentation because I didn't want to go, with many other herbs. I just went like very minimal here. So ginger, all of you know, it's very, very good digestive, nausea, tonic for the heart, relieves gas and cramping. It's ignites the agni, ignites the digestive fire. That's why I told you this little secret about this. We call it Ayurvedic appetizer. 15 minutes before a meal, slice of ginger with little squeezed lemon, few drops of lemon there, and then sprinkle some salt, sea salt or Himalayan salt in it, and then you chew it. It's pretty hot and spicy, and then you have a better time, hopefully, enjoying that meal you're going to be having. Especially we do that in the middle of the day, like at lunchtime, because that's when we are eating the heaviest of meals. So that's the time we want to use this ginger. It's a miracle herb, with so many properties, one of the things, I'll share this little story with my exposure to Ayurveda, was like a Sheila was talking about when she was introducing me growing up in Nepal. Was, when I was a kid, again, I was in the kapha stage of life, like maybe 10 or so kapha stage of life, heavy mucus, especially in the winter months in Kathmandu. Kathmandu, where I grew up, is as cold. The weather-wise, it's similar to Santa Cruz. It's very moderate weather. Doesn't snow there unless you go in the high Himalayas. It's very, very mild weather, just like Santa Cruz. It's perfect. So, it's cold, relatively cold, just like winter in California, Northern California. And I used to get a lot of mucusy and runny nose. So my grandmother was almost like a medicine woman. She didn't study intellectually Ayurveda, but she knew the concept. So she had all those herbs in her medicine cabinet. And what she used to do was, every time I had this terrible cough and runny nose, at nighttime, she would make the paste in the mortar and pestle, a paste of ginger, okay, very, very thick paste of ginger, and then she would put on my chest, and then on top, so it doesn't go everywhere, she would put these cotton balls, the cotton, the pads of cotton on top of that, and then I would go to bed with it, and then next morning, all my phlegm, all my mucus, my cough is gone. I was like nonstop coughing the night before or all day long, and then now it's gone. So I didn't understand that. I obviously hated it at that time, not knowing what was going on. By the way, I hated all these different Ayurvedic seed spices. In Ayurveda, we use a lot of these seed spices in Ayurvedic cooking, like ajwan, cumin seeds, coriander seeds, mustard seeds, fenugreek seeds. Why is we use seeds instead of powder is seeds have oil in them, and then once it's infused with oil, it's all the oil in the seeds are infused with your cooking oil, and that's the maximum benefit, right? So because if you know, a lot of these seeds, they can make oil, like I have seen cumin oil, I have seen fenugreek oil, that kind of a thing, right? Mustard, definitely mustard oil is used as one of the cooking oil in Ayurveda. So a lot of these seed spices have oil in them. So that's the concept behind infusing with oil. So back then, I hated these seed spices in my vegetables and my dal, my lentil soup or something. You used to be all kind of seeds, and I hated it. I used to, pick one by one and then put it aside outside my plate. But now I understand the concept and I eat them. I cook regularly. So again, going back to that pretty interesting observation with that what happened with those ginger paste in itself. So if you feel a lot of cough, we're again with the COVID, we're trying to protect our lungs. Really, we're trying to protect our immunity more than lungs. All the immunity, obviously, immunity is coming from our gut. That's where it's produced. So regardless what organ of your body, gut is the one we need to strengthen, right? But if you have an upper respiratory bronchial, like that kind of issue, ginger paste will really help. So try that out. And then if you want to go one step further, you just boil pot of water, add some eucalyptus oil, and then do the steam inhalation. Cover yourself with a towel or something, a beach towel or something pretty big that covers your face. And then you basically do the steam inhalation for a few minutes, maybe however long you can do it, handle it. And then that also releases a lot of phlegm. These are the things we do. And another thing is obviously, I talked about turmeric, honey, and black pepper paste. Those are all the formulas I've been using during the flu season. And that has been pretty effective, at least and during the flu season. I'm not suggesting this you use it against COVID. I mean, COVID is the root cause of COVID is, again, I talked about that. It's immunity, a compromised immunity. A lot of people have gotten it and they don't even know the symptoms. They got it because their immunity is so strong that it just passes through, right? They get it and then it's gone. And others are really sick. So it depends how strong your immunity is. So those are the traditional practices now we use, and I cannot stress enough about circadian rhythm and not getting exposed at night with our electronic devices. That really disrupts our signals in our brain and in our body. That has been well documented in many scientific literature about the EMF effects, especially when we are sleeping. We can certainly have an alarm clock rather than our phone as an alarm clock. And also one of the practice, if it's possible, is to completely start shutting off the Wi-Fi in your house so that there's no EMF happening at least for 8 hours because we are bombarded, unfortunately, with all these different stimuli, and that is not you know, it's not appropriate, especially, um, you know, when we're trying to heal the gut. Um, so circadian rhythm is huge, my friends. It's try to go to bed at a decent time. I know some of us like to be night owls, but it's not really beneficial. Maybe when we're young, it's good, but then as we age, everything is compromised, and that's you know, it's a byproduct of many years of um, like habits, many years of unhealthy habits is what is, you know, cumulative effect, right, over time. So couple of things I want to mention here is taste, and there are 6 tastes in Ayurveda, which is sweet, sour, bitter, astringent, and pungent. So for Pitta dosha, the elements are fire and water, and the quality of Pitta is hot, moist, and light. So the taste, we're supposed to have all 6 tastes in a daily basis: sweet, sour, pungent, bitter, astringent. All 6 tastes has to be consumed. When we say sweet taste, doesn't mean like a refined sugar or cookies or candy or chocolate, but we're talking about sweets which is naturally present, like you know, in fruits or in our rice, and also obviously the healthier sweets sugar are raw sugar or honey or maple syrup, or those are more like healthier, like a sucanat or jaggery is also considered in Ayurveda healthiest forms of more like non-refined form of sugar. Those are the ones we're talking about. So if you are predominantly Pitta dosha, so we want to do 3 taste more of: sweet, bitter, and astringent more of, and sour, salty, and pungent less of. Okay, why? Because pungent, sour, and salty increases fire, increases heat. Sweet, bitter, astringent decreases heat. So therefore, we want to do sweet, bitter, astringent more of for Pitta dosha, and pungent, sour, and salty less of for Pitta dosha. Okay. So to increase and balance extra Pitta, use more of this quality food, beverage, and environment. And then how about the Kapha dosha? For Kapha dosha, what is the elemental qualities? Water and earth. So what are the characteristics of Kapha? Cold, moist, and heavy. So for Kaphas, if you're Kapha, pungent, bitter, and astringent taste more of, okay? Pungent, bitter, and astringent, more of. What is the pungent taste? Something like chili pepper, okay? Chili pepper, any kind of hot, spicy things like a chili or, you know, black pepper or other kinds of hot chilies, things like that. Those are pungent. Bitter greens, astringent. They're astringent vegetables or astringent spices, cooking spices. Those are more of. And then sweet, sour, and salty, less of for Kapha. We do want to, like I said, we do want to do all 6 tastes if possible every day, but pungent, bitter, and astringent will reduces Kapha, excess Kapha. Sweet, sour, and salty increases Kapha. So we don't want to do that. So sweet food less for Kapha people, salty and sour food less. Bitter, pungent, and astringent more of. And then how about the Vata? So for the Vata, what is the elemental quality of Vata is air and ether, or air and space. And then the qualities of Vata are cold, dry, and light. So what are the taste which will increase Vata? So the pungent, bitter, and astringent are good for Vata dosha. So I take that back, sorry. Pungent, bitter, and astringent, less of, not more of, less of. Pungent, bitter, and astringent, less of. And then sweet, sour, and salty, more of. So sweet and sour and salty increases, decreases the Vata dosha, meaning the imbalance, sweet, sour, and salty taste. And then pungent, bitter, and astringent increases the Vata dosha. So we want to do less of them and more of sweet, sour, and salty. So for in terms of oils, Vata dosa loves sesame, almond, and apricot oil. I mean, sesame is a cooking grade oil, but the almond and apricot is more like for your body, for the massage. That could be the base oil for Vata. Either sesame, almond, or apricot. And then for Pitta, definitely sesame. Sesame is very tridosic kind of oil, and coconut or sunflower. Coconut or sunflower, those are the good ones for Pitta. And then the Kapha is sesame and olive oil for Kapha, more lighter oil for Kapha dosha. So again, to summarize, my friends, we have 20 more minutes to go. I want to summarize what we talked about today in this presentation. So Ayurveda is a science of life which focuses on how to live life in harmony with nature. The true essence of our being, of any living being, is nothing but nature. We come from nature, we go back to nature. There's a unique characteristics in Ayurveda, which is a dosha, which is your constitution, which is unique. It's like a blueprint or your fingerprint, unique to you. Nobody else has that. Even your biological, like a twin sibling, would not have an exact dosha. There's some kind of a variation, okay? That has been documented in Ayurvedic text. Twin siblings, different dosha, different composition, a little bit of a variation. So there's a dosha is a little bit different. So that gives us a roadmap of your weaknesses in your body and the strengths in your body, and also your mental attribution, like what kind of your mind type is, what are the things you avoid, what are the things you actively engage in. All of those things gives us like a roadmap to go forward. So these are important tools so that we can, when we go out of balance, then we can bring us back to balance with so-called like a homeostasis, so the body starts to heal. So once we understand your dosha, we then know what are the things trigger us, what are the things good for us, what are the things not good for us. Like some people, like one time, one of my patients was, I was seeing this person in New York, and then we looked at every single thing, but then something was missing. So I basically suggested her, how about temporarily, because she was a typical Vata person. Vata person, obviously dry, rough, and cold. So she was like, basically we realized it was miserable for her to be in a cold weather, right? At least for 4 or 5 months every year. So she decided to move. Luckily, she had family on the West Coast. She moved to Southern California for a while, and then in the winter, and then all her problems basically slowly started to fade away. But we did everything we could. We're trying to avoid her to move because her life was there. But sometimes, we have to do those things. You may say, hey, we are adaptive, but because she was not young. I mean, she was in the Vata, typical Vata constitution, in the Vata stage of life, and that's when all these Vata aggravations starts to come in. Typical Vata aggravations are, again, like joints and bones problem, arthritis. The typical one is arthritis, right? So not enough fluids in the body. The fluid is in the phase of depletion. So she moved, and then that was one of the, move. Basically, her health started to turn around dramatically because now her body is exposed to more heat, which Vata loves. And then if you're a predominantly Pitta person, maybe the colder weather, maybe better rather than being in Hawaii all the time, right? So it all depends. What is your constitution? What is your food source? What is your environment around? And who are the people you hang out? Because what happens is we are nothing but nature, and also we naturally in tune with the energy. So we are so influenced by energy. um, this whole universe is nothing but the big mass of energy, right? So we are so influenced by other people's energy, and some people just completely depletes prana, life force energy, depletes ojas, which is immunity, tejas, which is radiance. All of those are depleted because they just want to suck you dry. So how do we then cultivate a community where each one another is lifting, like supporting each other's journey? So that is very important. We call it in Sanskrit Sangha, Sangha. Sangha means a spiritual community. It doesn't mean like you have to go and chant mantras every day. Sangha means a community. You come together and do a common purpose thing. So you are lifted, your soul is elevated, you're exalted, right? So one of the practice I do in Santa Cruz, we have a lovely uh, tea house in downtown Santa Cruz, very close to my office, Hidden Peak Tea House. Right now it's closed. And it's the only place probably in the US. It's a digital free environment. So you're not supposed to use your devices there. So basically we're drinking this amazing aged pu'er tea. Pu'er tea comes from Yunnan province in China, aged like a hand-picked organic teas. So we just drink this really powerful pu'er tea. It has so many medicine benefit, and then we just talk rather than like being bend down on our devices, right? So that's my sangha. I hang out there all the time with my friends whenever I have an opportunity, all by myself, reading books, or they have a lot of board games or nice library so people can read books and things like that. So that is
Excuse me,
one of,
Manish.
yes,
We have about 15 minutes left and we have a few questions. Would you like to take some questions?
yes.
All right, let's see. A quick one here. Larinda asks, what is the word for radiance that you mentioned?
Tejas, Tejas.
Tejas, Tejas.
Mm-hmm.
All righty, thank you. And Karen asks, would you repeat the name of the tea house in Santa Cruz?
It's called Hidden Peak Tea House. You can check out their website. It's a lovely tea house, probably one and only in the US, digital free, traditional Chinese tea house. So like they have all kind of pu'er tea and black tea and green tea and white teas, and some herbal teas were very limited, but they specialize in pu'er tea. Hidden Peak Tea House.
Thank you. Okay, and then Let me just scroll back. Lauren asks, you mentioned leaky gut several times. What do you recommend to repair the stomach lining, or will it happen naturally over time if one is eating a good diet?
I think for the leaky gut, we have a 4R protocol. I don't want to go into detail right now, but we have to restore, repair, rejuvenate. Always we start with the detoxification. That's exactly what we do with this 6 months gut healing protocol, is to repair and heal the gut. So food alone would not, if you already have a leaky gut, food alone, obviously eating healthy food would not, damage the situation, but to fix the problem, we really have to use some herbs. We have to completely detox your body for a while, detox, and then remove all the pathogens, like all the unhealthy microbes, and then feed the healthy microbes, and then slowly start to rejuvenate. So it's a process, but I've seen many people with that. But you are already doing with the healthy food, but to really address the cause, we have to go a little bit deeper than that.
Okay, this is a therapeutic approach question. Haley asks, if your constitution is Pitta Kapha and you have a Vata imbalance, how would you balance the Vata without creating imbalances in the other doshas?
So what happened? That's a good question. So in Ayurvedic approach, the protocol here is, regardless of your imbalance, what dosha is out of balance, because again, I mentioned earlier, 60% of all the imbalance are caused by Vata dosha. So we always address the Vata dosha regardless of the, because Vata dosha is movement, right? Movement, they are responsible for all the movement. So what they do, besides the body function, all these movement activities, they push other doshas to go out of balance. So we always try to bring the vata into their home, meaning we always balance the vata dosha. 95% of the time when we do that, other doshas line up. So that's our approach.
Fantastic, thank you. We also had a question about flavors. Where does pungent fall for Pitta people?
Pungent is not, again, like I said, you have to do all 6 tastes in Ayurveda, but pungent is something I would be careful doing excess of for Pitta dosha. Pungent means very high, like a heating, or herbs or heating food, like a black pepper or jalapeno pepper, or any kind of other peppers, right? So a lot of pungent food are avoided. Excess pungent are avoided. That doesn't mean you should not be cooking with black pepper or a little bit of chili pepper, but not in excess for Pitta people.
Okay. Let's see, what other questions did come up here? Barry asks, the Pitta tastes again, you said less salty, pungent, and you also mentioned a third. Could you repeat that?
Yes, let me bring that paper back.
Thank you.
So for Pitta, you want to do more of sweet, bitter, and astringent taste, and then less of pungent, salt, and sour.
Sour, okay. All right, and we had a request. Could you share a recipe for the medicinal oatmeal?
Oh yeah, so I can do that. So medicinal oatmeal is, again, depending upon how many people you are making it for. So what you want to do is, either during cooking, you want to add, like, let's say if you're making for one person, you want to add at least like a half teaspoon of turmeric in either while you're cooking or later in your bowl. You mix it nicely, and then once it stops cooking, you want to add at least 1 tablespoon of flax seeds ground. I would prefer grinding any kind of seeds at the time, because again, flax seeds have oil in them. When you grind it in a coffee grinder, that oil, it's fresh and nice. It goes into your oatmeal rather than buying already grounded one. So what I do is I buy the seeds one, flax seeds, the seeds, and then I keep it in the refrigerator. Every time I'm making oatmeal, I grind a little bit and put it in the oatmeal. It doesn't take a whole bunch. So the flax seeds, one tablespoon, half teaspoon of turmeric. And if you are not vegan, I would go for 1 teaspoon to 1 tablespoon of ghee. And then another thing you can add is at least half teaspoon of finely chopped fresh ginger. So that's the oatmeal recipe, and you mix it really nicely in your bowl, and then you have an oatmeal. But if you are vegan, then you can use, like I have used MCT oil, for example, which is a coconut oil, or coconut oil by itself, just for the little bit of a fat content, so that turmeric assimilates well.
Fantastic. Okay. And let's see. I feel like I might have skipped over a question here. So, listeners, if I have not addressed your question, go ahead and type it in again here. Oh, Jaylene asks, what kind of oatmeal?
I would prefer either rolled oats or steel cut oat, and I always recommend using organic if possible. So rolled oats or steel cut oats.
Great. And I'm just going to add to that. I often make steel cut oats for my oatmeal, and I like to set it up the night before and let it soak overnight and then cook it in the morning.
Perfect.
And let's see. Summer asks, for those who choose to eat meat, what types of meat are best for which doshas, and are there seasonal guidelines for that?
Well, again, the seasonal guidelines is you definitely don't want to have too much meat in the spring and summer season. If you're like to eat meat, then I would go for fall and winter, because that's the time we need heavy things, heavy foods, and more fat and protein in our diet, especially those of you live in the colder areas. And obviously where I live, Santa Cruz, is not that extreme weather. It's not that cold even in the winter. But if you do live in the colder weather, we do need to accumulate a little bit of fat, so that becomes like a protective surface for against the cold, like a layer, right? Like the protective layer for your skin. So we have more fat, that means we are less cold. So I would go for like eating meat more in the fall and the winter, and absolutely less or none in the spring and the summer. But very, very little if you do want to eat spring and summer, very little. As far as what kind of meat, in the fall and the winter, probably like any kind of like a lamb or beef, or that kind of a thing, chicken, or goats, or whatever you can find. Any kind of meat is all right. Any kind of fish in Ayurveda is considered cooling. So if you do live in like a winter, like a very cold weather, I would suggest maybe less seafood at that time, because normally it's categorized under cooling as compared to ground, like ground animals. Compared to water, animals are cooling, and the ground animals are more heating. So that's how we specify different meat. Again, farm raised, humanly raised, not factory farm, grass fed, that kind of a meat would be appropriate. Again, these days it's a little bit difficult. There's a mercury pollution in the ocean. Our food system is a little bit corrupt, and that's a whole different conversation.
Okay, and we're at 12:28. One more question here. Pradnya asks, do you suggest any herb other than spices to maintain good health?
Well, there are many herbs. You know, tomorrow I'm teaching the intermediate class, the Ayurvedic pharmacology, like medicinal herbs. So that's a little bit advanced for this level, but there are so many herbs, my friend. There are hundreds and hundreds of herbs we use. But I am somebody, I like to believe in food being medicine. So some herbs are good if there is a problem, but not forever. So let food be the medicine. So
And
this
on that
picture,
note,
the last slide, by the way, Sheila, this is actually taken, if you guys can still see it, this
yes.
was taken, I'm drinking that pot of tea, very small, you know, see that pot of tea at the Hidden Peak Tea House.
Ah, that's beautiful. All right, we have one more comment that follows nicely with what you were just saying. Kristen says, not a question, just a statement. In the last 10 years of my herbal practice, probably 80% of my work has been healing the digestion first. I was starting to think that I was a hammer and everything was a nail. Digestion is the root of health. Thank you, Manish, for reassuring me that I'm on the right path. And
I concur very much. That's what Ayurveda 101 is all about.
And Kristen also says, asking about the presentation. Yes, we did get through all the slides, and yes, everyone will be sent a copy of this video. Okay.
Yes.
And we're right at 12:30, so that's the end of our session today. Manish, thank you so much for sharing your time and your experience. And thank you to all of our attendees for listening and for asking so many questions. And oh gosh, let's see, there's a few last minute ones here. Karen Williams, the intermediate classes, that's a question for Jill Unger, whether you have access to the intermediate class. And we've got some folks saying thank you. This is an actually interesting question. Summer asks, can you speak briefly about the different types and varieties of Tulsi? Do they have different applications?
Well, there's Rama Tulsi and other forms of Tulsi. I haven't studied in detail about the Tulsi, but Tulsi is one of the. It's also considered called holy basil. Is one of an amazing herb for. It's again used for nervine tonic, which is calming the nerves. People who have problem like sleeping. Also for prana. Prana means life force energy. So life force energy who have problem breathing, a lot of like lungs, like compromised lungs health, upper respiratory channels and all of bronchial and all that. So all of those things, Tulsi is amazing. So it's used in a therapeutic, like in a medicated form, or Tulsi is commonly used as tea. You know, there's a company, India Organics, makes like a Tulsi tea. It's really good in the bag. That's, I mean, I again like to use some of these herbs. I basically have a bunch of like a um, bulk Tulsi. I make my own tea, but Tulsi is highly recommended herbs. So those of you who have a lot of like a stress and anxiety, I recommend Tulsi tea in a daily basis, like a 3 or 4 Tulsi tea every day, like through 3 or 4 cups every day in the high anxiety, especially now we are going through a lot of fear, anxiety, unknowns. Tulsi is recommended. But in terms of the varieties, I haven't studied every single species of Tulsi, but there are like a 2 or 3 forms we use in Ayurveda.
Okay, I think that's wonderful. And I think that'll be our last question for today. Manish, thank you again so much. I really appreciate you sharing your time with the East West School.
And thank you, Sheila, for moderating. I really appreciate your help with keeping time and everything. And I appreciate, although I didn't get to see all of you in the screen, but I appreciate, I'm deeply honored and humbled by this experience to share little what I know.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. All right, folks,
Namaste.
I'm going to stop the recording now, and everyone go take a good break, step away from your screens, move your bodies, get some good nourishment. Thank you. Have a good afternoon.
Bye.